Part 1. The daughter of the temple town. Her name was Ishita Kaul, and she was born in the heart of Jammu, to a proud Pandit family with deep roots in Hindu tradition. Her father was a Sanskrit scholar, a man of scripture and strict discipline. Her mother, a gentle but deeply spiritual woman, ran a small temple nearby. Ishita's childhood was saturated with incense smoke, the chants of mantras at dawn, and the stories of deities whose power shaped the universe. From an early age, she had questions, but questions weren't welcomed. Faith doesn't ask why, her father would say when she asked why one god had an elephant's head or why another had 8 arms. You obey, you don't reason, he would add. But Ishita was always restless in her heart. As she grew, she excelled academically. Her family celebrated her success and expected her to study classical literature and eventually follow the path of academia in Sanskrit or philosophy. But Ishita had other dreams, of science, of logic, of things she could understand with her mind and not just accept with her heart. Her world was expanding far beyond the walls of tradition. She received a scholarship to a university in Delhi, and that's where her quiet rebellion began. In the hostels and cafes of the city, she met people of all backgrounds: Sikhs, Christians, atheists, agnostics, Muslims. Her first real encounter with Islam came not from the Qur'an, but from a roommate named Amreen, a practicing Muslim girl who wore the hijab and prayed quietly in the corner. At first, Ishita found herself mildly annoyed by Amreen's ritualistic discipline. Why all this formality? Why bowing and reciting things in Arabic? She would ask. But Amreen never forced her religion onto anyone. Instead, she would answer calmly, "It brings me peace. It gives me clarity." Ishita couldn't relate to that feeling, not yet, but she started listening. It was a random evening when everything changed. A group of students were debating religion in the cafeteria. An atheist student launched into a sharp attack on the idea of God. Others chimed in. Most religious students fell quiet, unable to defend their views with reason. But Amreen spoke up. She didn't preach, she posed questions. If there's no creator, why is there such consistency in the laws of physics? Why do we seek meaning, morality, justice, things that have no evolutionary advantage? Her tone was not argumentative, but calm. Ishita was surprised, even impressed. It was the first time she had heard religious reasoning that wasn't rooted in mythology or ritual, but in logic. Still, Ishita remained cautious. Islam, in her view, was rigid, oppressive. She had been raised on media portrayals of women hidden behind veils and news stories of extremism. "I could never belong to a religion that silences women," she once told Amreen. But instead of defending with emotion, Amreen offered her a challenge. "Why don't you read it for yourself?" she said, handing her a slim translation of the Qur'an with commentary in English. "Don't listen to me. Read it. Question it." Ishita took it, more out of curiosity than conviction. What followed was a quiet unraveling. She began reading the Qur'an in her dorm room, secretly, flipping through its verses with a kind of academic detachment at first. But she couldn't ignore what she found. Verses that asked her to think, to reflect, to question. Verses that acknowledged doubt, emotion, pain, struggle. This was not the voice of a vengeful deity, but of one who knew the depths of the human soul. And it haunted her. But confusion crept in too. How can this be the truth? She thought. I'm not a Muslim. I was born into Hinduism. My ancestors, my parents, my entire identity. It would all fall apart. She tried to run away from these thoughts. She put the Qur'an away for weeks, buried herself in her studies, attended pujas again, but now the words felt hollow, the chants felt mechanical. She sat in front of idols she had once adored and asked, "Can you hear me?" There was silence. Her turning point came during a college trip to Kashmir. It was there, walking through the snowy lanes of downtown Srinagar, that she came across an old mosque during prayer time. The call to prayer echoed through the mountains. It wasn't a sound she had grown up with, but it stirred something inside her. Not fear, not alienation, longing. She stood still as people entered the mosque. No one noticed her. But for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she was being invited. She didn't say a word to anyone, not even Amreen. But she returned to Delhi with a secret fire burning inside her. The snow from Srinagar still lingered in her memory. Ishita couldn't explain it. The way that single call to prayer had pierced through years of skepticism and fear. It was not dramatic. It was not emotional. It was weightless. A call home. But to a home she never knew she had. Back in Delhi, the confusion returned in waves. She started reading again, the Qur'an, yes, but this time, along with scientific works, history books, commentaries from Muslim scholars who had also once doubted. She wanted to be sure. She didn't want to fall into another inherited belief system, and so she tore through everything. Books by ex-Muslims, books by critics, books by converts, debates, forums, blogs. She tried to break it all down, again and again, to see if it would fall apart under scrutiny. But something kept happening. Every time she thought she had found a flaw, an inconsistency, a contradiction, she dug deeper and found an explanation that satisfied both her intellect and her instinct. She once came across a verse that had confused her. There is no compulsion in religion. She paused. That didn't sound like the Islam she had heard about. She researched its context. She found it wasn't abrogated or hidden, it was consistent, unapologetic. Her defenses began to crumble piece by piece, yet doubt lingered. She remembered her father, his sharp tongue, his sermons on Dharma, his warnings about Abrahamic poison. She remembered how he used to say Muslims were invaders, how her mother once told her, "Never marry a Muslim. Even if he's kind, his religion is not." Those voices still echoed inside her. But one night, while watching a video debate between a Western atheist and a Muslim astrophysicist, something inside her finally snapped, not in collapse, but in clarity. The Muslim scientist didn't argue from dogma. He didn't hide behind miracles. He spoke about design, order, justice, why the universe seemed to want to be discovered. And he ended with this: "Faith is not the enemy of reason, it is its completion." Ishita wept. She wept not from sorrow, but from recognition. She didn't tell anyone, not yet. She didn't wear hijab, she didn't change her name. But one day, in the quiet corner of her room, she whispered the words, "La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah." There was no lightning, no angels, just peace, and silence, the good kind. That day, she deleted every video mocking religion she had ever saved. She archived her blog where she once called belief a weakness, and she began her journey, slowly, of building back what was never hers to begin with, a faith that belonged to her heart and her mind. She started praying. Awkwardly at first. She watched YouTube tutorials in secret, fumbled through the Arabic, but with each prayer, something new was born. Structure, clarity, humility. She wasn't worshipping stone or stories anymore. She was worshipping the one who made the universe comprehensible. She didn't go public, not yet. In fact, she told no one for a full year. Not even Amreen. She fasted during Ramadan in secret, woke up at dawn, and prayed with the volume low, bought halal meat in distant neighborhoods where no one knew her. She lived a life in twilight, between who she had been and who she had become. Then came the day her parents visited her in Delhi. They found her Qur'an, her prayer mat. Her mother was silent. Her father exploded. "Have you lost your mind? After all we gave you? You're spitting on our blood." She didn't cry. She didn't fight. She simply said, "I found peace, and it wasn't in the past. It was in the truth." Her father left without speaking another word. Her mother, before leaving, placed a small idol on her bookshelf. "Just remember where you come from," she whispered. But Ishita did remember, and she honored it, because now she was more sure of who she was than ever before. She eventually told Amreen. Her friend wept with joy, hugged her tightly, and said, "I always prayed for you, but I knew only Allah could guide your heart." Years passed. Ishita kept her name. She became a science writer and, eventually, a speaker on interfaith harmony. She never hid her story, but she never shouted it either. When asked why she became Muslim, she would simply say, "Because, for the first time in my life, I chose my faith, and it chose me back."